Did Canelo's confidence against Mayweather stop him from making the fight ugly enough to win? I think it looks like to me that when I watched the fight many years ago, that Canelo came into that fight trying to use feints and counter punch the counter puncher. I understand the logic, but when that was not working, he needed to make a transition. And this is an important part of ring IQ and adjustability. He needed to turn the tables. He needed to roll the dice. And I think he needed to get in the pocket and really start to make it tough for Floyd Mayweather, similar to what Ricky Hatton did. And for whatever reason, he didn't do it. Clearly, Canelo's a brave person. And I think what probably happened here is that he prepared to fight one way, and when that didn't work, and when he tried to make the adjustments, he just didn't have that game plan in his pocket. So it wasn't something that he could execute because he planned to fight Floyd Mayweather a certain way. And with Floyd Mayweather, I think to beat him, you have to be multifaceted. You have to be able to adapt because he's downloading information all the time. Second question, when Canelo says he mentally wasn't there against Crawford, is that accountability, an excuse, or evidence he underestimated Crawford? I think a lot of people made a big thing out of the size difference. And maybe Canelo started to believe that. Mostly you believe your own hype, I think, if your team is believing the hype. So maybe he went into the preparation not understanding the magnitude or the eliteness of Crawford. So that's definitely maybe a part of it. And it's hard to train for Crawford because sometimes he'll fight a whole fight orthodox, sometimes he'll fight a whole fight southpaw, and sometimes he'll switch hit. So preparing for that type of fighter is exceptionally difficult. Also, similar to Mayweather, Crawford has this ability to adapt mid-fight. So from that sense, it was always going to be difficult. But I think the timing, and that's something that's hard to see on video, I think his timing was essential and the way he was able to control the action. So I think there might have been, he obviously knew he was a good fighter, but may not have understood that he was an elite fighter. And maybe more importantly, his team didn't understand that he was an elite fighter. With regards to an excuse, I mean, if you're mentally not there, or maybe that, you're not as mentally as engaged as you should be, is that an excuse? It depends if that's what really happened. And is he saying that retrospectively, or is that something he feels retrospectively? And is that objectively true? I mean, if you mentally felt that you weren't there and that's true, then to me, it's not an excuse as long as you give the credit to the opponent. So to me, if you, like, say, for example, if you have an injury and you state, yes, I had an injury, but then you give your opponent credit, I think that there's an element of accountability. But you have to take accountability for having that injury. You went into the ring with that injury, knowing you had that injury. So if you only acknowledge the injury but don't acknowledge the performance of the opponent, I think that there's problems with accountability there. From what I can remember, in the post-fight, Canelo was very complimentary of Crawford's abilities and Crawford's execution. So I would like to say that if someone's acknowledged how good their opponent is or was, but also just gives a bit of context to what happens, then I'm not sure that he's not taking pure accountability unless he completely changes his story.